Hey, welcome back to the show. Short break of 2 weeks here. We're back. Tonight, going to be talking about playing the long game versus the short game and all the mistakes we make, that I've made, Craig's made, thinking short term instead of thinking long term. So we drew up a list of things that, we look at in the short term, and it's a mistake. And what the long term holders get and what it brings. What do you say, Craig?
Yeah. Hey, how many brokers play golf? I mean, there's a lot, right? And golf's all about, what is it? You tee off for show, but you putt for dough. That's a different game than the game we all have to play, right? So you got to play. It's the long game. It's not the short game. The short game is the reason that too many people they quit too early, right? What's that old story about the guy who owned the property? He was looking for diamonds, and he was looking and he was digging all over his property, and he quit. New guy came in, bought the property. 6 feet away from where he stopped digging was the largest diamond mine, ever discovered at the time, because he stopped 6 feet short of his dream. And that's what brokers do all the time. They quit too early, right?
Yeah, I mean, look, and what's crazy is sometimes we know we got to play the long game. We know it's like, if you know what works. I mean, we've taken risk, and we'll talk about it on, the show. When I came out and pitched you on Let's Do This Show, we didn't 100% know what it was going to be about. I still, to this day, we talk to people new that's been listening to us every year for many years, but we didn't know in the beginning what it was going to bring. I still think we don't know how much value or the big money it's going to bring us is later in the future. I still believe, but we didn't know what was going to happen in the beginning, and we put in. We spent about $30,000 in cameras and studio equipment. Went a little crazy.
We used to drink a lot more. I think it was. I liked it better when we were in the same room. We had a bottle of wine while we did the show. I thought that was good.
Yeah. I mean, look, we took the show and invested $30,000 into cameras, into a $5,000 computer, because didn't have this program that you have now that you can do over the internet for streaming, and we just ran with it because I heard your son Mark talk about. It's not what you know. It's who. It's not what do they say. It's not
It's
what
not who you know. It's who knows you.
Who knows you. And so I knew that if we can get out on social media to show the podcast, that I can pitch programs, or I can, get to know more people, can get to know us by doing it this way virtually versus one at a time. And so we could run ads, emails, everything that we did. And we were spending in the beginning about $4,000 to $5,000 a month on just a hunch of what this was going to be. Picked up, moved to California, or I wasn't even planning on moving there full time. I was doing it more for the show and was paying, that cost me thousands and
That's a funny story. That's a funny story. So John gets me liquored up to convince me to do a podcast on something called Facebook. I don't know nothing about it, right? And here we are 3 years plus later. And so I took him to an outdoor bar at the top of a hotel in Laguna Beach, and then to another deck on the beach. And he's from Jersey. He says, "Is the weather like this all the time?" I said, "Yeah, man, this is it. We have spring and summer. There's no winter." And next thing I know, he's making plans. He's moving to Orange County.
Yeah. Look, we move quick, move fast. But the goal was with the show was to play the long game, and I knew it was going to take many years of doing this shit. We're in our 4th year now. Start 2008.
Yeah.
And spent a lot of money, a lot of time, but has it come back in dividends multiple times over? Absolutely. And it's going to continue to pay many times. I mean, Craig, how many times did we want to just stop it, and go, maybe we'll do it, maybe we won't. I made the mistake during COVID, panicked, right? Because we'll talk about the market, panic selling, right? We think, oh, let me save some money. I thought during COVID, let me cut back a little bit on the money we're spending in the marketing, when it's like, shit, well, why? Okay, maybe it's going to last a couple more months, but I'm not retiring. I'm going to be in it in 5 years. I'm going to be in it in 10 years. So this is irrelevant. And that's what our mind tells us, is starts thinking short term. Most of you that listen to us are probably selling self-funding. You're selling a long-term strategy to your clients, and yet you think short-term in the things that you do in growing your business. We'll get in the
That's
stop
deep.
loss in
That's
a
deep.
minute.
Preach it.
We'll get in the stop loss in a minute. Hey, if you're watching, let us know where you're watching from. Say hello in the comment section because we can't see who's on unless you
Billy Hughes,
text
hello
hello.
out there from
Hey,
Waco,
Bill Hughes,
Texas.
Texas. Bill Hughes just renewed a case with Virtue. Good job, Billy boy, Texas boy. So what was I saying? So
Stop loss.
short term thinking, right?
Yeah. Stinking
Let's talk
thinking.
about cold calling for a second. We just talked about the show and how I cut it, and that was a bad idea. Okay, definitely. But when we're an advisor, we're thinking cold calling, right? Now, I got a gentleman in my office that is an absolute beast on booking appointments, 4 times more than my guy did when I hired somebody full time. When I started, I hired somebody I had 20,000 in revenue coming in. I hired a guy $50,000 to do cold calling. Okay, what's that equivalent to your marketing budget compared to your revenue? Oh, 250% of your revenue,
Yeah.
right? Because I had
Yeah.
already saw that it worked, so I knew it's just going to take time. It's a matter of time. Now we both would buy a list, and I knew shit back then. The lists were such shit. I didn't know what we were doing, and we were manually dialing, not auto dialer. He'd only make 70 dials a day in
Yeah.
8 hours. And it would take 4 months to warm up the list, meaning call them, see who get them on the phone,
Yeah.
right, which is the hardest part, who handles it. Then calling back to get that person on the phone to find when they renew. Then calling them back renew. So it'd be
Yeah.
4 months just to warm up the list. And we would consider not just appointments, but leads we would call capturing the renewal date. Hey, we got 5 leads today. Great. That's future potential for appointments. And I just sat and knew this was going to take a while, but I already saw the end game from where I worked with the old guy. I saw it and I knew it worked. So we just stuck with it long term. And that's how I built my retail block of business. And what I see with a lot of the advisors and the mistake that you're making, and again, I know it's hard. I know it's hard sometimes to think, when nothing is going on for 2 months, you start to self-doubt or doubt what you're doing, whether it be this or something else. But I see
Yeah.
guys
You
that
got to believe. You got to believe.
cancel cold calling after 3 months and go, how in the hell could you measure something in 3 months with telemarketing, cold calls? Those that have built your book, cold calling will understand. I think where we see people cancel more so is or stop it early is they didn't build their book on cold calling. They maybe were a marketing guy or referrals or center of influences type of guy. So
Yeah, and don't tell me you can't cold call, right? I got a cat. I had a call with him earlier this week, 2 today, 1 on Friday, and there isn't a single company less than 1,000 employees, and he got them on cold calls. Hello, it is doable.
Oh, we got a young shout out to a young gentleman, future superstar, probably already is a superstar, Clayton Wood. He's 26. He's cold calling himself, booking meetings with groups, 100 plus, closing cases left and right, selling a long term strategy, obviously using Virtue Health's long term solution to Consortium. But the guy is just killing it. I see other people, this make the excuses, this and that, and yet all of a sudden he's like, look, they're going forward, they're going forward, they're going forward. I'm like, Jesus. And he's got every excuse in the book to say, well, they're not buying me because I'm 27 and I'm new and I don't have a huge client list and I haven't been
Those
doing
are
this
the
for
same.
20 years.
That's the great part of the story, John. The same reason that people use as the excuse to stop doing it is the same reason he uses to actually make it happen, because he's persistent, he's consistent, he doesn't quit. And it's like, look, guys, it's okay if if you're not cut out for this, but the fact is this is not easy. I will tell you, it used to be a hell of a lot easier in the 80s. It was a lot easier, and the 90s were easier too. But it's a busy space. Everybody looks the same. They sound the same most of the time, and it's a beauty contest. It's a bake-off. Not a great way to make a living. So you got to figure out how to be different, speak different, deliver different results. But if you can't do it, and you talk yourself out of it, then just go get a job. Go get a government job. I always call it a government job. Go to work for Anthem or Kaiser, right? You don't have to do anything. They call you, right? In the
Order
consulting,
taker.
advisory, and brokerage business, that don't happen.
You want to be an order taker, take orders,
Yeah, yeah.
Let's talk for a minute. Let's look at it from the side of investments, right? Anything you invest in, let's look at the stock market, right? Or side investments you may have in real estate, this and that. None of those
Crypto.
investments, you know, the percentage of people you see right now in Bitcoin, right? If you follow Bitcoin, it's the most volatile thing out there, right? And yet, if you look at the charts, you can track everything, and you see the institutional investors, the smart money investors, hold for a period of over, I think, 160 days, and you could see right in the market where they buy it at the low, selling at the high, rebuy it at the low, long-term holders, and then you see the short money thinkers, right? The people that panic sell and jump out of it anytime something moves, and they all lose money. You could see it all on the chart. And that's because emotions can't control it, inexperience. And look, I fell short to it.
Greed.
I fell to it. Yeah, greed. I felt victim to it many times in the last year and a half in crypto. And I'm learning more and more now to do what Craig does and just hodl.
Hold,
So
baby,
if you
hold.
get some from the show, hodl. Look it
Yeah.
up.
Talk to me in
HODL means
2024. I don't care between now and then. Leave me alone.
yeah, it means hold. So one of the best investment advice I ever heard was look, almost everything in the long term makes money. If you hold it long term, you will usually not lose. Okay. Obviously, unless you're buying something that's going to be extinct, like DVD players or something like that. But in the long term, you buy a good company. Hey, I use Apple, right? Shit. My brother been on Apple for 10 years. I remember when it was $6 a share, my cousin worked for them and I didn't buy any of it, right? And how many times over has this thing split? And, if you talk to any long
Uh,
term investor, even ones that had success, you know what they always say? Two things I did wrong. I bought too little and I sold too fast. I bought too little and sold too fast. So let's flip that and look at it from our industry. And again, I always look at it from a marketing standpoint. Well, cold calling. I only wanted to spend 2 grand a month to get X amount of leads. What if I spent 4,000 a month? Well, then I get twice as many appointments and close twice as many accounts, right? And then sold too early. Well, I quit too early on the strategy. I panicked, sold, and canceled my cold calling, right? And that's what we do over and over. We go through these transitions where things are slow, and I see a lot of guys stop cold calling in December, January, and February. Oh, let me stop because there's no renewals now. Well, no, in sales, we know it takes 90 days to get going back up. So once you restart it in the fall or in the spring, you're already 90 to 120 days behind everybody else. Okay. And so it's a mistake. We play too much short game in our industry. And like I said, I've fallen victim to it over and over, and I learn just keep the money going. Keep the strategy alive. What do you say, Craig?
I agree, man. That's the game.
Yeah.
What's next on our list?
Hey, well, why don't you talk real quick about Syra and how many years you were selling till it started selling, and how much money, how you worked on no salary, and you laid out what 100 grand a year in flights of your own money.
You're whispering, brother. Yeah. Yeah. Look, you can't tell me that most of you people out there have some sort of religious faith. Oh, emphasis on the F word there. Faith. You believe in what you can't see. Unfortunately, most brokers, they live by the means of, you know, I'll believe it when I see it. That doesn't work. It doesn't work. You have faith in this other part of your life, have faith in your business, have confidence in yourself that even though you can't see the results today, that that it's really just sort of a persistency numbers game, that it's a contact sport. And then if I have enough meetings, I have enough prospects, that the end will take care of itself. I don't need to worry about the next meeting because it's not the only meeting I have. Another huge problem, unfortunately, that brokers have, right? You don't have enough prospects, ergo, you show up needy and wanting, and the prospect senses it and they say, doesn't sound like somebody I want to do business with. Okay. So, back in the day, I worked for over 2 years for free as I was transitioning from retail into wholesale. And I said, no, I believe that you should pay for your education. I don't want anything. I want to learn how to do this. maybe I'm stupid, but that's what I did. And it worked out exceptionally well. I learned. I got out there on the street. I had calls. I failed. I mean, once Louisiana, I went to Louisiana for 2 years, over 2 years before I made a sale. That was a learning curve. That was, I learned a lot actually, because I learned that I really had to match my prospects. I had to slow down when in the South, because they don't work that fast. They don't talk that fast. And so I was just, there's a total disconnect, because, I'm talking fast, I'm thinking fast, I'm somewhat intolerant for dumb people. And so depending on my mood, that might come across in my tone. Wonderful. You do it too. So learned a lot of things, and now I'm the president of the company, and we've increased sales 600% in 5 years. And it's fun. It's fun, right? I teach brokers and consultants and advisors how to speak different, how to position themselves differently, how to create authority. And it doesn't matter whether you're 26, 36, or 46, or 56, or 66. Frankly, all the young people do better because they don't get in their own way. The older people in this industry tend to be skeptical know-it-alls. And so, they got a lot of mud in their brain. They can't get it out of the way to try something new. And that's okay. But get out of the way for the people who are doing stuff, because they can make a sale. Shout out to Josh in South Carolina. Talked to him today. He just closed another fee consulting agreement. Way to
Only
go.
26, 27 years old.
Another
10
baby.
plus, 15 plus that he's done.
Yep.
I mean, those two
Sweet.
guys there, both of them out of Carolina, Josh Hyman, Clayton Wood, young superstars that defy the odds of what other people think that that can't be done. Let's
Yeah.
flip over to what we do for a living. Some of you may not understand it. What I'm realizing is what Virtue Health Stop Loss Purchasing Consortium is. So we're going to be doing a webinar, and it's going to be called How Traditional Stop Loss Fails Small to Mid-Sized Businesses and Gets Brokers Fired. Stop loss, you've got to understand, is a short-term, traditional stop loss is a short-term strategy, okay? Yet you're selling your client a long-term solution. You're saying, hey, look out 5 years. We're going to make money in 5 years, right? This is all, again, about short-term thinking. You're trying to convince a client to stick with this strategy for 5 years and maybe spend a little bit more this year, but overall, we're going to spend less, right? Long-term. Yet you buy insurance protection for a 12-month period, okay? So in that market of 50 to, even up to 350, you're buying traditional stop loss insurance that covers you 12 months. The way traditional stop loss works is they're underwriting to see if they're going to make money over the next 12 months. And they reevaluate it after 12 months. Great for the stop loss carriers, right? They're not on the hook for more than 12 months, because come renewal time, we can laser, or we could increase the rates astronomically to get rid of you, get rid of the risk. So as an advisor, what does that do for you when you're selling a short-term solution for a long-term strategy? Well, now what are you going to do at renewal when you have bad years? You understand you're unpredictable. You're going to have bad years. They say 1 in every 4. I'm seeing it 1 in every 3 as of late. You're in a tough spot at renewal. What are you going to do? Take them back fully insured for a year and then come back because they had a bad year? But you sold me long-term, and yet I've got to go back to fully insured now?
Well, that's a question, whether they sold them long term or not, right? We see lots of guys who go, "Oh, it was a really bad year. I went back to fully insured."
Yeah. So you're either doing that,
Yeah.
right? Or now you get a bad renewal and you're scrambling because you sent to your client, he's got a bad renewal, claims are bad. Guess what happens? They panic, they think short term, and they allow other brokers to come in and compete against you. And you bring in outside competition. When we developed Virtue Health, it was a long-term strategy, which means it's a policy that you put in place that's going to protect you on a long-term basis, meaning you're not going to get whacked when you have a bad year. You're not going to get major lasers on a bad year. We have the no new laser contract, but our loss ratios on the program and how it runs and the risk management allows us to pool those bad renewals, and we don't have to spread that much across. So it allows you to
Whoa, whoa,
keep
whoa, whoa! Slow down.
clients.
You went too fast there. Say that again. Everybody, pay attention right now.
So basically, what that means is, and we'll talk more about it on the webinar, is when you have a bad year, you're going to get underwritten individually. You get underwritten on your demographics. You're going to get underwritten on how many years you've been in the program, and then what the future risk will be, right? Future claims will be, and they apply a pooling factor because you're not credible, which is why in your good years you don't get a 0% increase, okay? Because you're unpredictable. It's not how it works. I thought that's how it works. I've been running good for 3 years. I'm 80 lives. Why am I getting an increase? Because it doesn't matter. You're 80 lives. Okay. You could be 300% lost next year. So what happens is when you have that bad year and you're paying 200,000 in stop loss premium, and you got a cancer claimant that's brain cancer and it's going to be 500,000 prediction next year, what happens? Well, you get a $500,000 laser. Well, a small to mid-sized business can't take on that risk, right? That liability. So you got to back fully insured. But if you're in a program that offers you a no new laser with a rate cap and has a history of performing, well, we can spread that increase across the pool. But because the pool is running so well and managed properly, there's not every group in there spreading bad years, right?
It's
And
not a
so,
dirty pool, it's a
yeah,
clean pool.
yeah, it's not a dirty pool. And so when you're in your good years, you've got to take 15% stop loss increases from the program on your good years. That's not how it works. And so this long-term strategy is what's needed in self-funding. I see too many advisors buy traditional stop loss.
Yeah.
And what do they look at? The premium rate, right? Short-term thinking. Oh, it's 10% less on stop loss premium, 20 grand in stop loss premium. That's not money long-term. Look
Right.
at
That's
it
the
along.
definition of being a broker, a person who gets in the middle of sellers meeting buyers. If you just want to be a broker, fine, but don't pretend you're a healthcare consultant, right? Because the healthcare consultant will come in and run circles around you because you shouldn't be looking at the 20 cent. It's the small and mid market, right? My market, shit, fixed expenses are 5%. It's 95% claims. In this market, it might be what, John, 20, 30% fixed,
Yeah.
70, 80, variable claims. And y'all just ignore the claims because you're focused on the fixed. It's like you major in minor things. That's what I
Here.
call it.
I just got an email today from a TPA, and it says, we don't put stop loss renewals on autopilot. Our in-house underwriting team carefully reviews it, negotiates with carriers. We negotiate with multiple carriers to get you the best rate. Again, I'm going to shop your insurance every year to 80 stop loss carriers. And guess what? In your good years, that may work. You might get a flat renewal or a decrease of 3%. But what happens in your bad year? Nobody's signing up to lose money on traditional stop loss. It's rated over 12 months. It's a short-term strategy. If you keep playing it, you will get burnt. I see it over and over and
Yeah.
over again, and they get stuck going back fully insured, or they get fired, especially the guys that sell RBP,
Yeah.
long-term strategy, and then sell traditional stop loss to them.
So I just heard you say something. So if fixed costs are 30% of a dollar of the healthcare budget, and you have what'd you say? You get a 3% reduction in the fixed expenses because they shop till they dropped, right? Assuming that all carriers are the same, all have the same contract provisions. They didn't miss anything because Lord knows you brokers don't read the contracts. And then on top of that, you assume they don't underwrite at time of claim. Do you guys know? See, they used to do that back in the 80s before you guys were maybe born, or for sure not in this business, but the carriers would sandbag you and they'd underwrite at time of claim. So you don't know anything. Most of you don't ask any questions about how often do they dispute claims, and then you end up having to get named in a lawsuit, or you don't even check the rating of the reinsurance carrier, and then you find out, oh, hey, did you ask your whether a B-rated carrier is actually covered by your there's just so many areas where you all have to get to the learning curve. And so if you save 3% on a 30-cent dollar, that's 0.09 cents. It's a 1% reduction in the overall healthcare budget, assuming the claims come in the same, and you're making a decision based on that silly discount versus, well, tell me how to reduce the number, size, and frequency of my claims. Now we're cooking because those are 70, 80-cent dollars.
What do you say? Brokers have a major and minor things.
They major in minor things, just like the
Yeah.
people they sell to.
Look, it says we save our clients money on fixed costs in the email. Again, that's what people in pitching the story they've been telling. And look, I fell victim to it too. When I started, I was buying traditional stop loss and shopping it and thought I was the smartest and pushing back and forth. And then the bad years came, and things didn't go so well in those years. You're in a tough spot as an
Small
advisor. So
groups,
is the
right?
client.
Those the under
Yeah, small to
300
mid-sized
market,
business. I'm
man.
not talking
It's
500 life groups that can take lasers, this and that.
yeah,
No, I'm talking small SMBs,
yeah.
right? 99.7% of employers are under 100 lives. Okay, that's the market that most of you are in and are selling to. And so you want to be in a tough spot come renewal. It's not so fun. Buy a little bit more insurance to protect you on in the long term, and that's what this whole story is about today. I'll jump up, stop loss. Look out for that webinar that's going to be coming up. I'll go into more detail with it.
That sounds like
But
fun, yeah.
yeah, I mean, we just gotta. If you're, this is the beginning of the year. We're in March. Think of what investments you can make long term. Look out and go. Look, I didn't have a good year last year, the last 2 years, or maybe I've been cruising. Now I really want to go after it. And think, if you're
Yeah,
an experienced advisor, think on how you grew your block. Sometimes we forget. Think what made you successful. Think of the investments and the risk you took then, because maybe you're not taking as much risk now because you got stuff to lose. That happens too. In the beginning, you ain't got shit to lose. Who cares? Right? You take more risk. Now you start to go, "Ooh, I don't want
yeah.
to lose this.
I
I want
don't
to hang
care.
on to this."
You know, the words you use, words are really important, right? I pay attention to the words you use, and you kept talking about investment, investment, investment. The problem is that so many brokers, they don't see the world through investment, right? They live in a world of scarcity. They don't live in a world of abundance because they don't really have faith that they can do what they think they can do, and so they never realize their potential because they always quit too early, and they have the scarcity mentality, thinking that there isn't enough money, there isn't enough leads, there's there isn't enough of anything. And so that's the challenge that you have. You got to overcome that stinking thinking, right? And when you do, you realize that everything's not an expense, right? We had some guy, John was telling me a story. Some guy asked, I don't know, we had to change the date of our next invitation only. What are we calling that, John? That in
Boot camp.
Vegas,
Boot camp.
invitation only boot camp, right? Let's get through the learning curve fast, right? I like shit, special high intensity training. I like to do it. I like to work out that way. I like to learn that way. So we're inviting certain people that we think would be in alignment with shit training, and they're going to come get their learning curve fast. And you know what? All they got to do is make a small investment. And I guess we had to change the dates. And some guy said, "Well, I lost my $100 deposit on it, and he wanted a refund." It's like, are you shitting me? Right? you know, okay, yeah. Apparently, whatever we're going to give him isn't going to be able to show him how to make $100 like times 1,000. But that's what you call, that
You
scarcity
look at it,
thinking.
you're saying is an expense. You got to
Yeah.
flip it from an expense to an investment, right? And I
Sometimes you lose
know,
money on investments.
yeah, and some look. I tell guys, look, who cares? You do it for 6 months. You spend 3 grand a month, right? Do the math, eighteen thousand
You're going to
dollars.
get leads. The question is, can you close them? And
Yeah,
and do you rationalize the story as well? They were lousy. They weren't good leads, right?
the leads are weak.
Right? Yeah,
The
the
leads are
leads are
weak.
weak. Yeah,
Yeah, they didn't jump in my boat. I threw the line out once
they
and
showed
nothing
up.
jumped in my boat.
They showed up
Yeah,
in the Benz and they didn't sign up. I don't know.
they canceled the meeting. Didn't show up. Okay, did you follow up to reschedule it? No. But
Wait, their benefits renew in 8 months and they canceled the meeting. Hello, world doesn't revolve around you. Most companies have to put out the tallest fires first. Something came up. Don't assume the worst, right? The worst being they looked you up on Google and went, "Oh my God, this guy's in the witness protection program. Nobody's ever heard of him. He's not even on Google." How embarrassing. Okay, don't assume that, even though it might be true. Just call them up and be professional and say, "Wow, I'm sure you got a lot of alligators, that you're wrestling right now. So we just want to reschedule the call." Boom. I mean, it's not hard.
and look, guys, we're busting your balls here. We're breaking chops. This is the way we train. Because we got to knock you out of that thinking that we fall victim to, right? I fall victim to it regularly too, right? I call Craig and Craig will yell at me because of my mind is just running in a certain direction and thinking short term. So we got to slap you out of it and go back and look back. I mean, we were having a conversation today and we were saying, yeah, look at some of this stuff the money that's coming in and we're making, and it's like, shit, this is all from what we did the last 4 years. It's not from anything we're doing today. It's the dividends being paid in the long term, right? And
Yeah.
people see you now. making money, and they think like, oh, well, you're not really doing that much. Well, you don't know what was done before to get here. It's all in
Right.
the long game. And look, if you want to make it, most of you have made it to a certain level. If you want to go further, it's not that hard, right? Change your frame of thinking a little bit, make some investments,
Yeah.
and
The formula is out there, man. The formula is really this simple. Do the things unsuccessful people are unwilling to do. Period. Whatever that is, however that manifests, just do it, stick to it, and success is inevitable.
be a long look. We'll end with this because we're running over time here. Be a long-term investor, and think of an institutional investor, not a retail investor. Retailers jump in and out. Gave you the perfect example with Bitcoin. All the people that lose money in it buy in the short term, sell in the short term, and institutional investors don't sell in the short term. They hold it long. Two things that big investors have always said on great investments: I bought too little and I sold too early. Keep that in your head and you'll start thinking longer term, right?
Quick
Greg,
question. Dates in Vegas. What are the dates in Vegas, man?
April 21, 22nd, invite
Okay.
only event, boot camp, new Virtue producers. Reach out to us and we'll see if you qualify to come to the event in Vegas. It's going to be a lot
Yeah,
of
talk to
fun.
Crystal. If you can't get past Crystal, you're probably not going to make it.
Yeah, reach out to Crystal at virtuealliance.com. Hey, guys, if you've been listening to the show for a while, years, reach out to us. We'd love to hear from you. We'd love to hear if we've helped you. We'd love to help you even more. That's what we're about here. We'll see you next week, same day, same time. Thanks for joining us. Heads Up Advisor, guys. See you next week.
See
Happy
ya.
hunting.